Good afternoon, everyone. How are we all? Hope we're all well. Happy Friday. Can't come soon enough, can it? Very quickly, did anyone see Anthony Joshua on Louis Theroux earlier in the week? Really good. He opened up a lot. He's the face you want as the face of the heavyweight division, isn't he? He's just a good guy. He just comes over as an all-round decent fella. Regardless of what you think of him as a fighter or his current position in the heavyweight sort of landscape, just a decent guy, isn't he? Louis Theroux's great as well, isn't he? He opens people up, gives them time to speak. His own ego doesn't get in the way, does it? He's great, Louis. You've got to watch everything he does, haven't you? Right, first of all, Tony Jeffries. And I'm not singling out Tony Jeffries because this is I'm having a go at Tony Jeffries, but it's more impactful coming from him because it's a former pro. And to quote him, in the first sort of minute of his video, he was like, the quote was that Tyson Fury was possibly the best heavyweight Great Britain has ever produced. Yeah. Is that a debate? Do people sit around in pubs with their mates and they say, who do you think is the best British heavyweight of all time, Lennox Lewis or Tyson Fury? Is that a debate? Are they even in the same universes? I don't know. You've got to go on their records, haven't you? I mean, if we take Muhammad Ali, widely considered by most as the best heavyweight ever, would he have been held in that regard if it was not for Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Floyd Patterson? Because you only get that status because of the caliber of guys you beat, don't you? Quite honestly, I mean, and I'm sure you're all well aware of the records, but when you read it out, So I'm going to go through the back catalogue of opponents of Lennox Lewis and Tyson Fury, and we're going to see the names on there, and we're going to see actually which ones actually provided jeopardy, which ones were actually live opponents. All right. So I'm going to pick out the names that are, worth mentioning. So start with Tyson Fury. So we've got Christian Hammer, Derek Chisora, the first fight, Steve Cunningham. He was on the floor a lot there, wasn't he? Then we go Klitschko in a Boarfest. I mean, that fight stunk so bad. I'm quite surprised there was anyone alive in Dusseldorf after that. So then we go Safari, Pianetta, Deontay Wilder, Otto Wallin, Tom Schwartz as well, but Deontay Wilder again twice, Dillian White, who didn't turn up, did he, at all? And then Derek Chisora, which for me shouldn't have even been sanctioned. And then you've got Francis Ngannou, and that's it. It's not a long list, is it? All right, so we move on to Lennox, because this is a debate, isn't it? Gary Mason, Mike Weaver, Glenn McCrory, Tyrrell Biggs, Derek Williams, Donovan Razor Ruddock, Tony Tucker, Frank Bruno, Phil Jackson, Oliver McCall, Lionel Butler, Tommy Morrison. Tommy Morrison was a hell of a fighter, hell of a prospect. There was a couple of pros, I can't remember who it was, who said that was the hardest punch he ever took, was Tommy Morrison. Real sad story as well. Sorry, I digress. Ray Mercer. Now, that's a great fight. Lewis v. Ray Mercer. If you've never seen that, go and check that out. Superb fight. Oliver McCall, Henry Ekwande, Andrew Galotta, Shannon Briggs. There's more. Zako Mavrovich, Evander Holyfield twice, Michael Grant, Franz Botha, David Tua, Hazim Rahman, one loss, avenged loss. Mike Tyson, Vitaly Klitschko. I mean, and you get people mentioning Tyson Fury is possibly the best British heavyweight ever. I'll move on because I'm lost for words, really. You know my opinion. I'll be happy to. Have you got a different opinion to that? Is anyone out there? Does anyone out there see Tyson Fury as the best British heavyweight ever over Lennox Lewis? I'll be interested to know. And listen, if you've got a valid argument, like I'd like to hear it. I encourage constructive discord, you know. So, yeah, I'd like to hear your opinions. Moving on, there was Frank Warren done a Seconds Out interview earlier this week, which was, is he boxing's king of spin? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read you a few quotes from this interview, and I wasn't even looking at this as a subject to do a video on, but just some of the quotes. How Frank does that with a straight face, I don't know. So this is the first quote, and I quote Frank Warren, Seconds Out. I never thought it was going to be a walkover. I thought Tyson would win it and win it quickly. Winning it and winning it quickly would equate to a walkover, wouldn't it? Or have I misunderstood that? Anyway, and we move on. I'll tell you what also annoyed me as well in this interview, and a lot of boxing press do this as well. They call Ngannou Ngannou or Ngannou, Francis Ngannou. And I tell you what, they also do it with Alexander Usyk. There's still unnoticeable, the bigger boxing channels out there who call Alexander Usyk. Anyway, I digress again. Let's move on. So he goes on to say that the two fights they tried to arrange with Joshua that Joshua didn't want to know. It was that simple. Then he goes on to quote the proposed fights with Usyk, saying all the toing and throwing with Usyk messing about, and that's why those fights fell through. So that was down to Usyk's fault. They went through. Now this was. So see what you think of this one. It's a great one. So Frank goes on to say, Frank made the Usyk fight for the 23rd. This was Frank and Tyson Fury. They put this in prior to the Ngannou fight. Obviously thought it was a great idea. So regardless, at this point, we didn't know what the outcome or the result of the Fury fight was going to be. But anyway, Warren's quote on why he pulled the fight on the 23rd is this. I pulled the fight on the 23rd, not Tyson. Because he'd been in continuous camps for fights that fell through, he needs a couple of weeks off. He can't keep doing it. Right. So he pulls the Usyk fight after the result, but says the reason he pulled it was because Tyson has been in continuous camps for the last year almost for fights that fell through, and he needed a rest. Well, that was the case before the Ngannou result. But you still made the date for the 23rd. So none of that makes sense. It's all contradictory. Then he goes on to say about the Usyk fight, he says, this is a big fight. It's for the 4 belts. What you going to do? Take 6 weeks to train for it? That can't happen. Again, he was still going to take 6 weeks to train for it prior to the Ngannou fight. So the result of the Ngannou fight didn't come into it. So his excuse for not making it is an excuse that was in place. The reasons were in place before the Ngannou fight, regardless of the result. So that's contradictory as well. When he was asked if Fury had blown Ngannou away, would the fight have still gone ahead? To which he says yes. So he really starts to unravel now, because again, he just goes on to contradict everything he said. Then read into this what you will. He gets asked about the undercard for the Usyk-Fury fight, to which he replies, and I quote, you don't need an undercard for that one, but there will be one. That kind of says what you can expect in terms of an undercard for that. Then he gets asked about Eddie Hearn, in which he goes on to say, I don't care about Eddie Hearn, don't care what he says about me. But then he goes on sort of a 5-minute monologue about Eddie Hearn. Great. In which he says, all Hearn does is talk about our shows. He never talks about any of his shows, which I'm sure a lot of you out there listen to Eddie Hearn on IFL and the likes. And all Eddie Hearn does pretty much is talk about Eddie Hearn shows, because that's what Eddie Hearn does. In his own appraisal of himself, he describes himself as a used car salesman. He's all about the spiel. He's a market trader. In essence, Eddie Hearn is a very successful one. I just thought Frank. But Again, I'd be interested to know what you hear. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for coming. Again, please, if you could just like and subscribe, takes no time at all, helps me massively, tremendously. I will be, again, eternally grateful for that. Anyway, have a good Friday. See you all soon. Hopefully get another one out tomorrow. Have a good weekend.